is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Welcome to the show that we did not want to be doing. Or at least I didn't want to be doing on this Wednesday. I wanted to be previewing the NBA Finals in Game 1. I wanted Ira to be in his hotel out in the Bay Area, getting up way before the crack of dawn on the West Coast.
6 in the morning, sure.
Way too early that anybody should actually be up. But look, I mean, this is where we're at, and I thought we had a good crossover talk. And I do want to get into a lot of the off-season stuff. And by the way, we're going to have weeks and months to talk about that because I know everybody loves the transaction in the NBA just as much as the action. But we will get into some of that today. But I want to start with what we saw, Ira, not just in these playoffs, but I want to start specifically with Game 7. And there are a few things about that game that have caused a lot of debate over the last few days. And I feel like since we're so close to it, I want to get to it now and kind of move on. And by the way, guys, you do us a great favor by hitting the like button, smashing the like button. We appreciate that. Drop your questions, your comments along the way. And also make sure to check out Ira. Ira has some great stuff up right now. I love the piece that you wrote about the gentleman who would DVR every game and then watch it the next morning because he was the caregiver for his wife. And I mean, just really good stuff up there and kind of some stuff that I think as the sting of Game 7 wears off, you'll get to appreciate a little bit more as a reader and a fan. Let's start with Game 7, Ira. And I want to start at the end. And I'm just going to ask you this, and you tell me, we haven't rehearsed this. When Jimmy Butler is driving down and he crosses half court, and you see him stop, and you know what's coming next, what is the first thought in your head?
And I'll be honest. The first thought in my head is, what the hell is he thinking? What the hell is he doing? Why is he doing that? And then I'm watching the flight of the ball, literally seeing an entire season. You know, when you watch those shows and some characters about to have their demise and how they show the flashback over their lives and what happened in years and the children and the marriage and all that. And it's almost like while the ball was in the air, I'm thinking back to the October start of the season. I'm thinking back to COVID. I'm thinking back to when Mario Chalmers was signed. Literally, like I'm having that flashback scene while the ball is arcing toward the rim. And honestly, when I think it's on the way in. So at the moment, and there are two different emotions here, Clay, I was like, what the hell is he doing? And if you're around me, I sort of blurt out loud, you know, mindlessly as if I'm sitting still on my couch at home. But I will say this. But after the fact, when I synthesize it, because unlike you and TV, when it has to be immediate, or Jack's calling the game on radio, Eric Reed or Mike Green, Mark Jones in this case, when they have to have an immediate reaction, and I pulled back. So I pulled back a little bit, and I said to myself, that was not a horrible play. That was not a decidedly, 100% wrong play. Because at most it would have tied the game. And Boston would have had 11 seconds left to run the final play. Pretty good at getting in the foul line, that team.
If you'd gone for 2, right?
If you'd gone for 2 and Al Horford scored, got fouled, as long as it wasn't a 3-point play. Or you would have gone to overtime when your team was injured and exhausted, and they still had the better scorers out there, especially in that game, in Tatum, Brown, and to a lesser degree, Marcus Smart also. So in retrospect, when I wrote and I pulled back a little, not a horrible play. I get it. I get the reasoning. I can understand from a player's ego standpoint why. In the moment, it was total shock value.
It's funny, and this is why I think sometimes this show can be a little bit tepid, because I think we agree so much. And just kind of take you guys behind the curtain, the way we staffed Game 7, Will Mansell was out at the arena, and then we had a bunch of news reporters gathered all over South Florida to potentially cover pots and pans coverage, everybody out celebrating. So we needed a fail-safe, and I was the fail-safe. I was back at the studio in case something went wrong, and they needed somebody to tap dance for a while and fill time, because if you've ever heard or watched me on here, you know that I can ramble and fill as much time as humanly possible. So I'm sitting there in the newsroom with our producer, David Lang, and literally when Jimmy stops, I go, "Oh, Jimmy, what the bleep are you doing?" I mean, and I said it out loud, and I mean, he's sitting across, so like he can vouch for me on this. So what you were thinking, I literally said out loud where everybody in the newsroom could hear me. Now, the difference between you and me is, as the days have subsided, like I still feel like, Jimmy, what the bleep are you doing? And it's not, look, full stop here. I wish we could have more nuance and conversation in this day and age, because it feels like if you say one thing, you're critical of one thing, then
Right.
people jump on your case and say, Jimmy Butler was the best player in these playoffs. Jimmy Butler was the only reason there was a Game 7. Jimmy Butler was everything you could ever possibly want. This does not at all detract from his playoff run and what he did this season and what he's done so far in his Miami Heat career. I just wanted in that moment for him to not do the thing late in games that he had done all season long, which is settle for the three-point jump shot. And this is something that people have said, you go back and forth with people and they say, oh, well, he made that same shot in the first half. No, he didn't. The shot he made in the first half, he walked into, and it was more of a set shot. This was a running full speed, stop, off balance jump shot. Now, he was going towards the basket, so it wasn't like he was fading away. So, Ira, to me, it kind of, every game this year that was close where Jimmy took one of those shots, I think you and I, if we came on here and we talked about it, it was like, oh, well, that's just because it's the regular season. In the playoffs, he's going to do what he did in Game 1 in Milwaukee last year, which is attack the basket. And I get what you're saying as far as overtime goes. I would counter with, yes, you may have been tired. Yes, they may have had the better scores. Man, if you're Boston, and you've had so many choke jobs at the end of games this year, how are you going to get through the next 5 minutes? And I really love the momentum that the Heat would have had. And then I'm going to end it with this one. If Jimmy Butler drives, there are a few possible outcomes. Okay. Number one, he goes directly at Al Horford. And look, I know Scott Foster is not going to call that foul. If he attacks Al Horford and Al Horford hits him in a way that alters the shot, they're going to call the foul. It's Al Horford against Jimmy Butler. They're going to call the foul. Number two, I think he had a better chance of getting an old three-point play the old-fashioned way by driving to the basket, getting fouled, and getting it to go than he did of hitting that shot. And number three, you saw Jason Tatum over in the corner. Jason Tatum had two choices. Either he comes over and he helps Al Horford, shades over a little bit, and then you've got a wide open Max Strus three in the corner, which I'm taking my chance. Jimmy Butler's your best player by far. I would rather have a Max Strus largely uncontested corner three-pointer than a Jimmy Butler wing three-pointer stop, pop.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there because I have done this dance too many times. Okay, let's go to option three. Okay, option one, he drives, he gets a layup, we're tied.
I know where you're going with this.
The other, you know what? And the other, so let's say he drives, gets a layup, he scores. Horford says, I can't foul. Okay, I get that, Clay. I would bet you when you watch, because we see these ESPN game trackers probabilities. So one team with the ball in a tie game with 11 seconds to go is in a very good probability position. You would agree that versus the other team.
Yeah.
With the ball, 11 seconds to go, not having to shoot till end. Okay, so if he scores, he does that. Three-point play possibility, possible, but with the foul, he might not get the basket. And then you have two of those, oh my God, he's got to make both these free throws. And I don't care how tough a guy you are and how perfect you are with the line, it still can be a little shaky. But what you mentioned is option number three. This would have been so much of a better show for this reason if that happened. Clay, I have lived this. Why did he pass the ball? I lived 4 years of LeBron James of that. Why did he pass the ball? You're LeBron James. If Jimmy Butler drives, gets Al Horford on him, draws Jason Tatum in from the corner, Max Strus is standing there, and he kicks the ball out. Because when we'd hear these words after the game, it was the proper basketball play. And Max Strus doesn't make that three. Oh my God. Our summer would have been, it's Jamal Mashburn all of a sudden passing the ball to Clarence Weatherspoon again. It's LeBron not taking the shot and making the right basketball play, and Stephen A. Smith bloviating, Michael Jordan would shoot that shot every time. Michael Jordan's not passing it. No, that would have been the worst outcome. It would have been the best Slomin's Home Security Inside the Paint show without a question, but I just think that couldn't have been an option. So I can understand your number one, go take the shot, get the two. Number two, drive hard, maybe get the three-point play or two free throws. But, oh, my God, if Jimmy Butler drove and kicked, got two on him, the right basketball play, fed out to an open Max Strus, the right basketball play, and Max Strus didn't hit the three, holy crap, our world would be different. The earth would be all of a sudden spinning the other direction. Lots of stuff would fall off into space. I don't think that ever would have been an option. And honestly, I don't think that ever would have entered Jimmy Butler's consciousness because that's not what a cold-blooded stone, whatever you want to call it, killer does in that situation. I don't think your number 3 was an option. I could live with 1 and 2, and at the end of the day, I could live with the shot also. Clay, Boston was the better team. Throughout that series, they were the better team. The Heat got 40 burgers from Jimmy to keep it close. They wound up getting Boston sort of, kicking themselves, kicking the ball all around the place. Boston was up 13 with 3.5 minutes to go. But I think at the end of the day, I don't come out of this like I've come out of some other playoff situations. Last year against Milwaukee, holy crap, what did they do? Damn, if only they had Bam and Goran 2020 finals against the Lakers. I sort of come out of this as like, hey, hell of a season.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up 2020 because I will go to my grave thinking they win that series if Bam and Goran are there. I'm going to go to my grave on that because I think if everybody has their chess pieces, I'm taking Eric Spoelstra over Frank Vogel, and he almost did it anyway. Jimmy Butler almost did it anyway. I will say this in regards to that play by Jimmy Butler. I don't care what Stephen A. Smith would have said. I don't care what anybody else would have said. I know what my eyes say. And that's that every time Jimmy Butler has settled for a late game 3-point shot this year, and since he's been in a Heat uniform, by the way, he misses it. He does not make those shots.
Okay.
And so at what point do you look at it and you stop saying, oh, it's the regular season, he's not going to do that? No, he did it in the playoffs. He did it in the ultimate moment of truth. And why I would have been fine with the Max Strus play is he's your best shooter. He's your best shooter at that point. And you talk about cold-blooded. He had just hit the three-pointer, fadeaway three-pointer
to start the rally.
To cut the game to 2. So I just felt like, and it's not even just about being the right basketball play, so to speak. I'd much rather Max Strus taking a corner three-pointer than Jimmy Butler taking a wing three-pointer. Full stop. Okay. The other option would have been he goes, Jason Tatum does not come over and help. And what do we always talk about? What do we always hear about with star players in the NBA? They have their spots. Jimmy Butler does not have a spot beyond the three-point line. Jimmy Butler has a lot of spots. He has spots he thinks he has, but he doesn't have them. He has a ton of spots inside the three-point line, mid-range. Yeah. And if he gets Al Horford going backwards, which he did, I mean, Al Horford had to, it was almost like he was shocked. He had to reverse course.
That I got a freight train coming at me and I'm out here alone on an island. Correct.
He doesn't necessarily have to go all the way to the basket. He could do a jab step, then quickly go over to the side and find he has one of those spots on the right baseline. I mean, it was wide open and he had 20 seconds. So everything Jimmy Butler did, 99.9% of what he did in this postseason is legendary. I think it's okay to call it. It doesn't make you somebody who's ungrateful or questioning the entire run because you're questioning one decision late in Game 7. So I just think that's me.
And you know what? And I can understand that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to stall for a second. Check the text I just sent you before you do the tease to the next segment.
Because, I saw it, by the way. I saw it.
I figured we have to get into the Max Strus situation and the officiating, and then maybe look at the finals also. So we had something very special planned for you folks, but you're going to have to tune into next week's Slomin's Home Security Inside the Paint show because this thing is ongoing. So I can guarantee you, as controversial and enjoyable and as much as you've been calling your friends about downloading this podcast, we will take care of you next week with even more of what you want to get to this offseason as well. So, Clay, I'm glad I could text you there rather than deal with our producer and go from there.
So, Kane's 1989 asked a question here, and it kind of gets into it's a broader question about the offseason, but I want to hit it right now just while I'm thinking about it because you mentioned before the crossover, that the Heat could have a package of Tyler, Duncan, and then a first-round pick.
Yeah, I want to explain to people, there's only so much that he can really put together. They have a lot of incredibly high-end salaries. I saw some speculation this morning. No one is biting on Kyle Lowry at his price point after his playoffs and his season. So my thought is the only cogent, tangible trade package, and we can get to this after the break, is I believe that Tyler Hero, because of the quality of who he is, Duncan Robinson, because of the size of his contract, and the Heat first-round pick, 1, because it's a sweetener, 2, because the Heat just don't give a rat's butt about first-round picks anyway, traded Precious Achiuwa after, a year, that to me is the package. And now I think what you do is you shop that package around the league while saying, we didn't shop that package around the league. I think that's what you wind up doing next.
Yeah, okay, so this is what I want clarification on. Because what I'm seeing a lot, and actually from very reputable people and reputable sources, is the idea that they can somehow... Now they've unlocked the ability to trade up to 3 first-round picks and potentially have 2 pick swaps. What's your understanding on that? Because, look, when we fired up the trade machine in the past and everybody throws players into the mix and blah, 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 this is really fun. And, hey, who says no? Who says no changes a lot when it's 3 first-round picks, 2 pick swaps. Because for whatever reason, everybody views first-round picks as gold, somehow overplayed. So what's your understanding on that?
My understanding is right now they're in position to trade 2 future first-round picks because of the consecutive pick rule. So when people are going out to 27, 28, you can't have both of those in play. You can never be without consecutive more than 1 first-round pick traded. So you can't trade consecutive future first-round picks because the Heat pushed back the protection to the Oklahoma City Thunder on the pick owned. They can trade their first-round pick this year or next year, and then 1 at the back end of the 6-year limit. They can do that. In other years, they can do pick swaps. Well, pick swaps, if the Heat go back lottery range or something like that, could have value. If the Heat wind up with a 16 or 17 pick, and they're trading with the team that's dynastic at 28 or 29, like the Warriors or something, it would be a 13-pick move. So you could do that. That's what Brooklyn did with Boston with the Paul Pierce trade when they did that also. The Heat can trade ample trade currency. But all these teams and the players we're talking about, and I know we're hard up against the bump, and we'll come with the break, and we'll come back after with this, is all those teams also have to sell something to their fans. We're giving up Bradley Beal because we're getting the promise of Tyler Hero, 6th Man of the Year winner. We're giving up Donovan Mitchell because we're getting the promise of Tyler Hero, 6th Man of the Year award winner. We're giving up Damian Lillard, who's agreed to the trade, or else he wouldn't be traded, because we're giving you this dynamic young guy to put with Anthony Simmons to give you something going for the future. So I think that's still more than what the picks would be, the prime component in the deal. And you're also getting a knockdown 3-point shooter in Duncan Robinson, a specialist more than anything now.
Yeah, and look, I think it's more like if you tell me, and this is where I try to be realistic when it comes to these deals, right? I try, not the who says no thing. I know we're up against the break, but like if you're just going to tell me, oh, Tyler Hero for Donovan Mitchell, let's get it. Who says no? Utah says no.
Yes.
But I think as we've seen over the last few years, teams are valuing these picks. So in addition
and you know what? And you know we have to go to the break. And then after we come back to the break, but Bradley Beal for Tyler Hero, who says no, I think it's something even straight up you think about. After the break, we'll get to that.
All right, that and a lot more coming up right here on Inside the Paint.
This is the